concept you have is that when you love yourself enough, meaning when you understand your needs enough and believe that they are worthy, you will no longer find attractive people who cannot fulfill those things for you.
What happened to us in early life continues to affect us in the way we relate to others, and specifically in the areas that I'm working with, which I call the 5 A's: attention, affection, appreciation, acceptance, and allowing. That these are 5 of the many needs that we come into the world with. And to the extent that these needs were met in childhood, we gain the capacity ever after to be able to be with people satisfactorily who only give us a modicum, a moderate amount of those 5 A's. So we're designed to have all 5 100% in very early life, in the first 5 years, say. And if we did receive them, with them, we receive the capacity to be satisfied with what other humans offer, namely a more reasonable dose. But if we were not fulfilled, then the very ones that were not taken care of by our parents or whoever our early caretakers were, they become like bottomless pits. And then I just can't get enough of the attention that I missed originally. Or another way of saying it is, I didn't remember anything about my childhood. I could piece it together by how I work with each of those 5 A's. The ones that I'm totally okay with and don't want a lot of, those are probably the ones they gave me. Good enough most of the time, not perfect. And the ones that I keep craving for more and more of, the Buddhist definition of suffering, continuous craving for that which is ultimately impermanent, as if it were permanent. That shows me what I must have missed out on. And if I'm still blaming my parents for how they didn't come through in all the ways that I was hoping they would, then I'm also still tied to the past. I still haven't left home. Because the real issue now is how you hold your experience inside yourself. It's no longer a transaction between those 2 little people, mother and father. Then these same 5 A's are the ones that we want in a relationship. And we look for someone or believe we have found someone because of all the heady romance. And romance is full of all the 5 A's. Seems like, oh, I found someone who's going to provide them in an ongoing way, again, seeking permanence, another inroad into suffering. Whereas actually, all we could ever hope for from one another is a reasonable amount in a good enough way most of the time. Basically, the past is still happening in the present. One of my books is called The Past in the Present. The title says it all. And while I was writing that book, I turned on the radio once, and there was a quote from William Faulkner, who said, "The past isn't ended, it isn't even past." I thought, oh, he summarized my whole point. You see, it's as if there were 2 mountain peaks. First, you get to the mountain peak of the end of childhood, and you're beginning your adult life. Think of that as peak number 1. Then we have the other peak, which is to design a relationship that really works and that is fully adult. We imagine we can simply jump from one peak to the other, but the actual work is to go down the original peak through the valley of darkness and then back up to the peak of healthy relating. You can't jump over. You can only go down and through and up. The book shows the journey from the first peak down through the valley up to the next peak. We will be condemned to repeat whatever is left incomplete from the past.
One of, I think, the most powerful parts of the book. In essence, a relationship is makes me cry, 2 children tugging at each other's sleeves, shouting in unison, "Look what happened to me when I was a kid. Make it stop and make it better for me." This knocked me over. And to think that, a partnership, which also has so much beauty and joy, also has this in the pain.
What came to mind when you were reading that is a quote from the Bible. Look at how I was wounded in the house of those who loved me. The shock of betrayal when you realize that it looked like they loved me and then they turned against me in some way at some point. Could it be that they turned against me when they saw who I really am? And this makes it very scary to be free to be who you are in the world and really trust that it's going to be okay. And yes, we are like children who are hoping that somebody will love me as I always wanted to be loved. My parents didn't come through in that way, we might think. And that can also be the truth, that they didn't come across in a truly loving way. And we're no longer blaming them, but we are acknowledging that it's still affecting us. Realize what work you have to do on yourself. Your integrity does not allow you to go into a relationship when you're not really ready for it. What does ready mean? That you will no longer be wanting to use your partner as a substitute for mother or father. So the more you do the work, the better equipped you are to be in a relationship that can really work. Going to my own personal private therapy, I'm actually making a contribution to having a healthier relationship.
That's been some of the most comforting parts of this book and why I don't think that we can highly enough recommend it. I mean, how to be an adult in relationships and also how to be an adult in love. The book walked me through every bad decision I ever made in a relationship. And it not only made it make sense, it allowed me to forgive myself and to see that I don't have to do it again. Every single component, if you did not have this component, if you didn't have this A, what it's going to look like is that you will keep seeking it. And in adult relationships, when you're not a child trying to get it from a parent, you'll get it this way with your partner. You know, you'll be critical. You'll stay when you shouldn't because you keep thinking it matters more for you to stay than for you to leave, right? And like that's one of the main concepts you have is that when you love yourself enough, meaning when you understand your needs enough and believe that they are worthy, you will no longer find attractive people who cannot fulfill those things for you. I mean, I was like, well, that's it. That's the solution. And it's not just like, oh, you have to love yourself. Like, look in the mirror, tell yourself you're beautiful. Meaning you have to understand where you came, what's the home you left, without blaming and without hatred, to say, this is the mirror I'm holding up. This is what it looks like. And I don't have to take the wounds of my childhood into an adult relationship when they're coming with their own wounds as well.
You expressed that much better than I could have.